beautiful souls. It's your girl, Sunshine, and I'm so thrilled to have you here with me today on another soulful episode of Energize Your Passion. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome, welcome, and welcome. And if you're one of our day one listeners, thank you for bringing your beautiful energy back into this space. We talk about love, light, growth, and healing on this show. And today, we're diving into a topic that's close to many hearts, but still misunderstood by many: greysexuality. Ever heard the term and wonder what it meant? Maybe you've felt something similar, but couldn't put it into words. Or maybe you're just curious and want to be a more compassionate friend or partner. Wherever you're coming from, this space is for you. We're going to peel back the layers of what greysexuality is, how it fits into today's dating landscape, and why understanding the full spectrum of human attraction helps us all connect better with others and with ourselves. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into this powerful conversation about identity, love, and acceptance. Segment 1: In the Gray: What Gray Sexuality Really Means. So let's kick things off with a heart to heart, just you and me, because this isn't about labels or boxes or having all the answers. This is about understanding, connection, and realizing that you're not alone if you've even felt like you didn't quite fit into the traditional ways people talk about attraction. Greysexuality, also spelled GREYSEXUALITY, lives somewhere on the spectrum between asexuality and allosexuality. If those words are new to you, don't worry, because they are to me as well. But we're keeping it all human here. Asexuality means someone experiences little or no sexual attraction. Allosexuality is the term for people who do experience regular or frequent sexual attraction. Greysexuality is the space in between. People who are greysexual might sometimes feel sexual attraction, but not often, or only in very specific situations. Or maybe the feeling comes, but not in the way others seem to describe it. And guess what? That's valid. You don't have to have a loud or frequent experience or attraction for it to be real. You don't have to explain or prove it to anyone. Greysexuality is also deeply personal. It can look different for different people. For some, it may mean they've only ever felt sexually attracted to one person in their whole life. For others, it might mean they feel it after a deep emotional bond is formed. But even then, it's still rare. And I think what's so powerful about talking about this today is that it allows us to see how diverse human experiences really are. The way society talks about relationships, love, and sex can feel very narrow. There's this expectation that everyone should want the same things in the same way, on the same timeline. But real life is so much richer and more colorful than that. Let's bring in our first listener story. Jazz from Arizona shares how discovering greysexuality helped her find peace with not feeling broken in relationships where sexual attraction didn't come naturally. I used to think that there was something wrong with me. I'll date someone amazing, and I genuinely cared about them, but I just didn't feel that spark everyone kept talking about. Movies, songs, friends, they made it seem like if you were not wanting to jump someone's bones right away, that wasn't love. When I found the term greysexual, it felt like a breath of fresh air. Finally, I had a word for what I felt or didn't feel. And more importantly, I had a community. I wasn't alone. That part about not being alone, that's key. Because when we don't see ourselves reflected in stories or media, we start to wonder if we're the outlier, or worse, if we're broken. But gray sexuality is a natural part of the spectrum of human identity. There's also something incredibly freeing about knowing that you can define attraction on your own terms. You don't have to perform or pretend. You don't have to chase after feelings that just don't come naturally to you. And more than not, understanding this part of yourself can lead to better, more aligned connections, romantic or otherwise. Let's hear another perspective. Derek from Maine talks about the confusion he felt in his 20s when dating apps and hookup culture didn't resonate, and how understanding gray sexuality changed his self perception. I thought I was just bad at dating, like really bad. Everyone around me was hooking up, making moves, and I just wasn't. I didn't feel the same urgencies or desire. And the times I did feel it, it was so rare that I started thinking I was just weird. Finding out about gray sexuality was life changing. I didn't need to fix it, I just needed understanding. Derek's story touches on something so many people feel, that pressure to be a certain way in dating, especially when society says that sexual attraction equals love or that it should happen quickly. But let's be honest, how many truly meaningful things in life happen on a timer? Not many. And when we allow ourselves and others to explore attraction on their own pace without judgment, we create a culture of deeper respect and love. So if you're listening right now and thinking, wow, this sounds like me, I want you to know that you're seen, you're valued, and your experience matters. And even if you're not gray sexual, this episode is about growing your empathy and awareness so we can all be better partners, friends, and allies. Understanding gray sexuality is a step towards a bigger truth that attraction isn't always about desire. Sometimes it's about energy, connection, safety, timing, or something intangible that can't be rushed. So take a deep breath, smile with me, and know that you are perfectly okay, exactly as you are. Now that we understand what gray sexuality is, let's zoom in on how it plays out in the world of modern dating, especially when everyone seems to be swiping for sparks. Stick with me because we're going there next. Segment 2, Swipe Culture Meets the Gray Zone. Dating today can feel like a full-time job. There are profiles to perfect, messages to reply to, and this unspoken pressure to feel an instant click. But what happens when you don't? When the spark doesn't fly immediately, or maybe not at all? This is the challenge many gray sexual people face in the modern dating world. The apps are built for fast chemistry, and quick decisions. They're often driven by the first impressions and the physical attraction. So, what happens if your experience of attraction just doesn't work that way? Many greysexual people find dating apps exhausting and even disheartening. The constant scrolling and swiping, the pressure to feel something after a brief chat or a single date. It can feel like you're playing a game that wasn't made for you. But it's not all doom and gloom. The truth is, more people are open to talking about different identities and experiences than ever before. And that includes being honest about how and when you experience attraction. Being greysexual in the dating world means learning how to communicate what you're looking for. And that might not be easy at first, but it is powerful. When you start dating from a place of self awareness, you give yourself permission to look at connection instead of performance. Let's listen to someone who navigated this firsthand. Tasha from Florida explains how frustrating it felt to date people who expected immediate sexual chemistry. One guy asked me on our first date if I thought we'll sleep together by the third. I remember just freezing. I didn't know how to explain that I wasn't even sure if I feel that kind of attraction ever, much less on some deadline. I felt like I had to pick between being honest or being dateable. It took me a while, but I started putting a note in my profile that said, I take time to feel chemistry. That weeded out the wrong matches and helped me find people who really wanted to get to know me. That level of honesty is brave and it's a game changer. Even though we live in a hookup forward culture, more people are starting to appreciate deeper emotional connections. There's nothing wrong with seeking out physical intimacy, but there's also nothing wrong with saying, I move slower. I need emotional trust first. I don't always feel that kind of pull. Marcus from Illinois shared how he navigated greysexuality while dating someone who was allosexual. My partner didn't really understand at first. She thought I wasn't into her, but I cared about her deeply. Once I opened up and explained what greysexuality meant for me, we had the huge conversation about how we both view intimacy. She was patient, and I felt safe being honest. We started creating our own timeline for closeness. It was eye-opening for both of us. Marcus brings up such an important point. Communication is everything, especially when you're building a relationship across different experiences of attraction. But with the right partner, those conversations can lead to a more intimate, honest connection. So, if you're dating and identifying anywhere in the gray spectrum, know this: your pace is valid. Your attraction timeline doesn't need to match anyone else's. And there are people out there who will not only respect that, but embrace it. For those listening who might be dating someone who identifies as greysexual, be patient, be curious, ask what makes your partner feel safe and seen. Because love isn't about speed, it's about showing up, learning together, and being willing to walk the path at a pace that works for both of you. Up next, we're digging into the emotional side, how gray sexuality intersects with vulnerability, trust, and the pressure to perform in relationships. Let's get real about emotional intimacy in segment 3. Segment 3, Beyond the Spark. Greysexuality and emotional intimacy. All right, now we're getting into the heart of it, literally and figuratively. Because when you're greysexual, the conversation isn't just about who you're attracted to or how often, it's about how you connect. It's about what intimacy really means to you and how deeply that ties into trust, vulnerability, and emotional closeness. Let's be honest, so much of our culture equates intimacy with sex, romantic movies, dating advice columns, even conversations with friends can all reinforce this idea that if things aren't heating up physically, something's wrong. But emotional intimacy, that's often the unsung hero of relationships. And for many gray sexual folks, it's where the real magic happens. Emotional intimacy is about being seen, heard, and accepted. It's about creating a space where you don't have to explain yourself constantly, where silence can feel as comforting as conversation, where trust builds slowly but deeply. And that's what makes any attraction, physical or otherwise, feel possible and safe. Let me share a story from someone who really captures that emotional journey. Lena from Colorado opens up about how trust and vulnerability were the key to understanding her own needs. I used to fake it, laugh at the filthy jokes, pretend I was into things I wasn't ready for. I thought it was the price of being in a relationship, but I always felt disconnected, like I was acting. It wasn't until I dated someone who truly listened, who didn't push, who asked what I needed, that I realized intimacy wasn't about doing what's expected. It was about feeling safe enough to be real. That relationship didn't last forever. It helped me learn that emotional closeness is my foundation. That's where attraction even has a chance to grow for me. Lena's experience is something many gray sexual people resonate with. Emotional safety can be the difference between feeling pressured and feeling seen. And when you lead with emotional intimacy, it changes the way you navigate everything else: dating, communication, even conflict. But there's another side to it too: that pressure, that unspoken expectation to perform, to meet someone else's timeline, to hit milestones in relationships, whether or not they feel right for you. This is where emotional labor often creeps in, feeling like you have to over explain yourself, manage someone else's expectations, or apologize for not moving fast enough. Let's hear from someone who's been there. Ryan from New York talks about the emotional toll of trying to meet a partner's needs without honoring his own. I really liked this guy, and I didn't want to lose him. So when he started asking why I wasn't more physically affectionate, I felt like I had to step it up, even though I wasn't ready. I thought if I just tried harder, maybe the feeling would flow, but they didn't. And I ended up feeling empty and resentful. I finally told him I was greysexual, and he said he wished I told him sooner. He wasn't mad. He just didn't understand what I needed. That moment taught me that honesty might feel scary, but it's always better than pretending. Whew, that right there, that's the kind of emotional honesty that shifts everything. Because while it might feel uncomfortable in the moment, opening up about how you experience attraction helps create deeper understanding. It clears space for real intimacy, not the kind that's rushed or expected, but the kind that's earned through care, presence, and patience. And the beautiful part, this kind of intimacy isn't exclusive to romantic partners. It can happen in friendships, in chosen family, even in the way you show up for yourself. Emotional intimacy is about connection, period. If you're navigating relationships as someone who is greysexual or dating someone who is, know this: vulnerability is your superpower. Not because you have to bear it all at once, but because choosing to let someone in little by little on your own terms is a powerful thing. And when someone accepts you in that space without rushing, without pushing, they're not just accepting your identity, they're accepting you. Now that we've explored the emotional landscape, it's time to talk about how to build a relationship that honors your pace, your needs, and your truth. Segment 4 is all about boundaries, communication, and crafting love that fits you, not the other way around. Segment 4: redefining intimacy, building relationships on your own terms. All right, beautiful souls, let's get into something deeply important and super close to the heart: intimacy. Now, intimacy isn't just about sex. No, it isn't. And it's certainly not about pressure. It's about closeness, trust, vulnerability, and connection. And for greysexual people, that connection can take on 1,000 different shapes. In a world that often defines intimacy narrowly as physical or sexual, greysexual folks are leading the way to redefining what it can really mean to be close to someone. They're reminding us that intimacy isn't a formula, it's a feeling, a space, a shared breath, or a moment where you're seen exactly as you are and accepted fully. Whether you identify as greysexual or not, this segment is a reminder that you get to create your own relationship blueprint. You get to say, here's what makes me feel safe, or this is what closeness looks like to me. Let's start with a story from someone who truly embraced redefining intimacy. Cam from Oregon shares their experience redefining what love looked like in a long-term partnership. My partner and I have been together for 6 years, and for the longest time, we both tried to make our relationship look like what we saw in movies: constant physical attraction, passion on demand, spontaneous sex, but it didn't feel right for me, and I didn't understand why. It wasn't until I learned about greysexuality and explored that part of myself that everything clicked. I finally sat down and said, I love you and I'm attracted to you emotionally, but I experience intimacy differently. That conversation changed everything. Now we have a love language that's ours: long talks, forehead kisses, shared books, even gardening together. That's what intimacy means to us. What Cam shared, that kind of real life love, we need more of in this world. A relationship that isn't about checking boxes, but about writing your own story. And here's the beautiful thing: when intimacy isn't automatically tied to sex, other forms of closeness rise to the surface. Think about deep eye contact, a handwritten letter, cooking together, slow dancing in the kitchen, or even sitting in silence while your partner reads. All of these are deeply intimate in their own right. Now, let's hear another story that touches on the flip side: how hard it can be to explain your intimacy needs when the world assumes they look one way. Nina from New Jersey opens up about the challenges of expressing her needs in new relationships. I used to go along with what my partners wanted, even if I wasn't really feeling it, because I didn't know how to say I'm not there yet. But I didn't want to seem cold or unloving. But inside, I felt disconnected. Learning about greysexuality gave me the language to talk about my need without guilt. It was empowering. I realized I didn't have to be ashamed of wanting emotional intimacy first. I just had to be honest. And now I know that the right person will respect that. Nina's story is powerful because it speaks to something so many people experience, the fear of being misunderstood. But when you step up into your truth and speak it out loud, you don't just invite understanding, you create it. And the truth is, all relationships benefits from conversation about what intimacy means to each person. Whether you're graysexual, demisexual, allosexual, or still figuring it all out, your version of intimacy is valid. There's also this myth out there that says real relationships have to follow a certain path: date, fall in love, have sex, move in, get married, repeat. But that's not the only road to love. Some people thrive in romantic partnerships without physical intimacy. Others build lifelong emotional bonds that defy conventional categories. And all of it is real. All of it is worthy. When we allow ourselves to throw out the old rule book and write a new one that fits our values, we start to build deeper, more authentic relationships. Relationships where both people feel seen, heard, and respected. So, if you're listening right now and feel like maybe your version of intimacy doesn't quite fit the mold, breathe, smile. You are not broken. You are simply building something beautifully unique. Here's your reminder: you don't owe anyone a performance. You don't have to mold yourself to make someone else comfortable. You deserve to be in relationships where your comfort, your timeline, and your truth are honored. And to bring us to our final segment, where we'll tie everything together, reflect on what we've explored so far, and talk about how we can support one another on this journey. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss this one. Segment 5: Living Your Truth, Embracing Identity, and Empowering Connection. Here we are, together at the heart of it all. This is the moment where we'll take everything we've explored and let it settle into something real, something lasting. In this final segment, it's not just about gray sexuality or dating. It's about embracing identity, celebrating difference, and empowering authentic connection in every corner of our lives. Throughout this episode, we've taken a journey, one filled with insight, courage, vulnerability, and truth. We began by understanding what gray sexuality really means and honoring that unique space in the spectrum of attraction. Then we dove into the complexity of dating and a swipe heavy culture where immediate sparks are often prioritized over genuine connections. We explored emotional intimacy, unpacked societal expectations, and saw how communication can turn pressure into possibility. And in the last segment, we redefine intimacy itself, not as something bound to physicality, but as something deeply personal, emotional, and soulful. And we're all about soulful here. Now, in this final segment, let's talk about living your truth. what it looks like to fully step into your identity, own it with pride, and cultivate relationships that reflect the real you. There's something incredibly powerful about standing in your truth, not apologizing for it, not dimming it, but owning it with both arms wide open. Greysexuality, like all identities on the asexual spectrum, is a valid and vibrant expression of human experience. And when you stop trying to explain yourself to fit into someone else's narrative, you get to write your own. Let's check in with a listener who did just that. Leah from Chicago shared what happened when she stopped trying to fit in and started living fully as herself. I used to hide the fact that I was greysexual. I'll keep dating like everyone else did, hoping maybe this time it would feel different. It never did. One day, I just got tired of pretending. I updated my dating profile with honesty, and guess what? I started having real conversations. Not every date turned into a relationship, but the ones that did were grounded in truth. I found people who respected me, not because I gave them what they wanted, but because I showed up as who I am. Leah's story hits at the core. When you live your truth, you attract what's meant for you. And the love you build from that place, it's resilient, it's freeing, and it's yours. But living your truth doesn't mean it's always easy. Sometimes it's lonely, sometimes it's misunderstood. That's why community is so vital. Having space where you can share, learn, and connect with people who get it. That's life giving. So let's talk about the allyship. If you're listening and you're not greysexual, but someone in your life is, or might be, your support matters. Be the kind of friend or partner who listens without judgment, who asks thoughtful questions, who doesn't assume intimacy might look one way. Help create space for someone to show up authentically. And if you are greysexual, here's your reminder. You don't owe anyone an explanation beyond what you're comfortable sharing. You deserve love that honors your experience. And you have every right to seek relationships that meet your emotional and intellectual needs, not just physical ones. Let's also not forget, this isn't just about dating. Embracing your identity empowers every part of your life: friendships, workspaces, creative projects, your own self worth. When you understand how you experience the world, you move through it with more clarity and confidence. So, how do we take everything we've learned and keep the momentum going? Here are the key takeaways from our journey today. Number one, gray sexuality is valid. It's a real, meaningful identity that exists on the spectrum of human attraction. Number two, modern dating needs more empathy. Not everyone experiences attraction quickly or in the same way. That's okay. Number three, emotional intimacy matters. And for some, it's the core of connection. You get to decide what intimacy looks like for you. Number four, redefining relationships is powerful. Throw away the rule book and write your own story with honesty and intention. Number five, living your truth empowers everything. When you stop hiding who you are, you open doors to deeper, richer love. Whether you're greysexual or just someone who wants to understand more, thank you for being here. Thank you for leaning in, for listening to your heart, and for helping build a world where more people feel seen. If this episode spoke to you, and I pray that it has. Share with someone you care about. Give us a 5-star ratings. Yes. Leave a review. I want to hear from you. And help us spread more understanding, love, and positive energy. Follow us for more empowering conversations. And don't forget, you are not alone. You're amazing. And you're so worthy of the kind of love that honors who you truly are. Until next time, keep smiling, keep shining, keep growing, and keep energizing your passion. This is Sunshine, signing off.